Hey guys, thanks for dropping back in. Thanks for hitting the download button. And if you like what you hear, I hope you've been telling a friend. We love it when you tell a friend. You can share at facebook.com/theythatbelieve, our website, theythatbelieve.com. But give us a like and a share over there on the face space. I am Pastor Dave, joined by Randall the Armor Bearer, and we are
They That Believe.
This is where church culture meets pop culture. We talk about entertainment news, geek news, current events, world news, all filtered through a lens of lifestyle Christianity. Well, let's talk about Mother's Day. I guess that seems a good place to start. Of course, you're not a mother.
No.
You're a father.
Not that I know of.
But you have a mother.
Yeah.
As we all do, presumably. What did you do, if anything, with or for your mother for Mother's Day?
Well, this is actually the first year in, probably almost 10 years I've had my mom with me.
They live here now, or nearby,
So we went to her house. She had her favorite hamburger balls with mashed potatoes and corn. And so I ate dinner over there at her house and brought her a card, and she got all teary-eyed and weepy and stuff. So.
She cooked her own meal for Mother's Day?
No, my dad cooked it.
Well.
My mom does not cook. She is not a cook, so my dad is the cook.
Okay, good deal. Did you buy her any gifts or flowers or candy or stuffies or anything?
You know, I used to every year, and then I realized that like 90% of the stuff I bought her ended up staying in Knoxville when she left. So I don't want to add to the clutter.
Stuff that you'd bought in previous years didn't make the move.
Well, I mean, it's all cool stuff, and then you start looking at it as a group, and you're like, I don't need all that.
This is junk. Yeah. We spend our lives accumulating junk, and I try to do that when I buy gifts. Any occasion, really. Something that's we may actually get some use out of, or you don't want to give them a vacuum cleaner or something like that.
You don't want something that's just going to sit on a shelf and get dusty.
Right. The occasional knick-knack isn't bad, but you're right. Once you've moved a couple of times, you figure out how cluttered your life gets with that kind of stuff. Well, we did a handful of things. First, of course, we had Sunday morning services, Mother's Day services, and don't normally talk about our church services too much. I guess I'm not really going to today either, as far as that goes. But we had a really nice Mother's Day service. I delivered what I think, I don't mean to be self-aggrandizing, but delivered a pretty moving and emotional Mother's Day message, because it was personal, and shared a lot about my grandmother and my mother. And at one point, or at some point here in the very near future, I don't know how I'm going to do it, if I'll do it by myself or I may have you in here with me. We'll talk about it. But I want to take a half hour, an hour, and I want to sit and kind of tell people my story. It, I think, would make for a interesting listen for a wider audience. But anyway, so delivered this nice personal message, and we're leaving the church service. It's a little bit after 12, and this small SUV drives by in front of the church, and there's some old lady. We're standing outside, right? And there's some old lady driving by in this small SUV, hollering like from the road. She stopped in the road. What y'all doing? What's going on? And Gretchen was standing there with me, and at that point, everybody had pretty much gone. Wayne was there, your former father-in-law there, and he's looking, and we're looking like, who are these crazy people? And, you kind of do that double take. And I was like, Gretchen goes, that's your mom. So the crazy lady in the SUV was my mother, and she had in the passenger seat my grandmother with her. And so then they pulled in. Well, what they had done was they had left the Nashville area that morning intent on making the service. Yeah. And they didn't make the service, obviously. They spent, I guess, a good hour or so once they got into West Tennessee driving around trying to get lost and figure out where they were. And
they hit the Cracker Barrels. What happened?
That could be, normally I might suspect that, other than the condition they were in, which was very exasperated and emotional. You could tell like they'd been on the verge of tears. You know how it is when you get out somewhere and you get lost and you're trying to make it to somewhere on time.
You just described my first 3 years living out here.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that easy? Horrible. Is that easy to get lost?
Oh man, it was so bad. I ended up in Tiptonville one time.
Oh wow.
I worked in Dyersburg, and I took the wrong turn, ended up in Tiptonville, and I was like, where's Rutherford at? And they're like, what's Rutherford?
Well, now that you say that, I do remember when I started going to one of the local universities, which is how I ended up in West Tennessee from the Nashville area. and was driving that. That was in the fall of '92 when I started going to school up here in West Tennessee, and of course, well before the days of cell phones or your Garmin or TomTom, or you didn't have anything. You maybe had a road map. We weren't. Yeah, at that point, we weren't even printing anything off of MapQuest. You had nothing. You just kind of had to remember what you were told. Maybe write down some directions and I did that a couple of times. I would, and took some really circuitous routes. Was going well out of my way in Nashville just to get on I-40, which was dropping me off, I don't know, somewhere in Huntington. It was weird, but I got lost one night and I ended up, I think, around Gadsden, or I don't know where I was.
I was world famous for getting lost. I still am, probably. If I were not to have my GPS, I would be done.
And my grandmother and my mother, they have a GPS thing in the car. It's an older one, and when it wouldn't take the specific street number of the church. It wouldn't take 351.
Oh,
so that was all it took to completely throw them off. Sometimes you got to come up with another plan. You got to.
They probably should put Bradford Highway in.
Yeah, or just try a number in a different block. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was able to. Once they were here and I went and looked at it, I put in, when I typed in Salem, the name of our church, the church popped up. So we got them close, at least for the next time. But anyway, they pulled in, and I had told my mother, because when I talked to her a week or two ago, she gave me one of these things where she kind of indicated, like, you never know, when we might just show up.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, look, now, that's great. I appreciate the idea, but I never know. It's a rare occasion, but sometimes I might have to work on a Sunday, or we may have something else going on. And this particular Sunday, Mother's Day, we had some things. We had to get moving and go. I had to go get Nate, and we had to get to Paris, Tennessee, and all kinds of stuff.
Not Paris, France.
Not Paris, France.
Or Paris, Texas.
No, definitely not Paris, Texas. So they came back to the house, and we visited for a few minutes, tried to talk them into going with us, maybe going to eat and stuff. But at that point, they were ready really to kind of turn around and go back home. It had been kind of tiring, and exhausting from the stress. So they spent, maybe a half hour with us visiting. But anyway, that was a nice surprise. We're like, who's this crazy lady driving by? What's going on, y'all? Just stopped in the middle of the street right outside the church. So we took off from there, went to Paris, Tennessee, met up with Big Nate, Gretchen's brother, had a nice dinner at the Hibachi, and went to see Civil War, which was amazing. Let me work back to front, then we'll talk about the movie for just a minute. And it's funny because it's kind of like what was the other one? We did Batman and Superman, which we had, I don't say we didn't like, but had a lot of criticisms for. And I think we even mentioned in that discussion how easy it was when you had a lot of criticisms to talk at length about something. And I watched the movie, watched Civil War, and enjoyed it so much that I really don't feel the need to dedicate an entire show to it, or for us to have a whole conversation about it. Saw it. Loved it. I think it's just about everything that you could have wanted, could have expected. I talked before about when you go in, you're expecting to see my expectations. And these guys, the Russo brothers and Joe Russo, have done a stellar job of hitting as many of those expectations for as wide an audience, I think, as they could have. Now, you saw it too. Do you want to? I don't really have a lot to say about it at length, other than I enjoyed it. What do you want to say about it?
The only thing I thought about going through it was that, I loved it, of course. I thought it was great, but the cinematography in it wasn't up to par with the Batman and Superman, but the story was so good it didn't matter.
What do you mean by that?
Just like the camera angles and camera shots and the way things were filmed. I don't think it was up to the Batman Superman level. But the story was so good it didn't matter. And it just shows you that no matter how good the cinematography is, if the story's bad, then the movie's bad.
Yeah, one thing I will say, I don't think this is quite on your point, but peripheral perhaps. There were times when the action sequences were so frenetic and so manic that it was a little bit hard for me, for my eyes to adjust almost. Like the camera was shaking.
Yeah.
And it was cut so fast that it got a little weird in places. I will say this. I was debating on whether or not to do this today, or maybe hold off until folks have seen it. If you haven't seen it, I want to talk about one quick thing, and then if it will spoil you, I don't think it. Yeah, it will probably. If you need to clock out for just a minute, maybe come back. But one spoiler I want to talk about, as it were. So in 3, 2, 1. I saw a lot of folks talking about the sequence early in the film where I guess Tony Stark is trying to develop some kind of memory hole technology to erase or change or alter memories. I guess the presumption to be to relieve guilt. We kind of get that impression because we see the computer-enhanced younger Tony Stark having that last conversation with his father, well, with his parents before they die, and the guilt is there, things I wish I should have said, and that kind of thing. But he apparently has not perfected it, and it doesn't work exactly like it's supposed to, so he offers all these grants to, was it MIT?
MIT, yeah.
To all the students there for their research and all that, really trying to push that technology forward. Now, that's about all we get of that, and that's early on, and then we go on to the rest of the movie. Then we have lots of punchy, smashy, and, drama and all that kind of stuff. And I saw a lot of people commenting online, and it's really frustrating when you see something that nobody else sees, and they were like, what was the point in all that? That was pointless. It served no purpose at all. And I'm like, did you watch the movie? Now, one of the problems with it and why people maybe didn't get it was the distance between where it was introduced and when it was called back. And it wasn't directly called back, but at the very end of the movie, spoilers, if you're still listening.
2, 1.
Now I'm talking about the end. Yeah. If you heard that first part, you're not spoiled, maybe. But at the very end of the movie, Bucky goes back into cryo because his brain is not right until they can fix his brain. And I drew the line and made the connection between that and Tony Stark's technology. I'll stay in cryo until you can fix this. And you may not have thought about that, but for people that it's okay if you didn't think about it at all. But what bugged me were people that saw it on the front end, saw that first part with him talking about his technology, and were like, well, that served no purpose at all. It was completely irrelevant. And I was like, no, it bookended the movie. The idea was to put Bucky back in cryo until we could fix it.
And plus it carried further, spoiler, that, the end where Tony finds out that Bucky was the one who killed his parents, and it sets up that whole scene of, when his parents passed away and when they died.
Well, there's that connection with it too. Yeah.
A little foreshadowing of what was going on.
Well, and that's and I'm getting even deeper into it. I got it, but now I'm getting it more. That they both carry guilt and responsibility they feel about that even that one single event, if nothing, all this other stuff too. But that's kind of what almost brings them together, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When he realizes that maybe I'm projecting some of my guilt onto him as well. And anyway, I just wanted to kind of make that draw that line. If you saw the movie and didn't forgot from the time you saw it at the beginning, of course, if you remembered seeing it at the beginning, you think you could make the connection at the end.
It was the Martha moment of the movie.
Perhaps. I'll say this though. Once we saw that whole first sequence where he's going to get something out of the car and the car crashes, I knew who that was. I knew he was in the car. I think for a lot of folks that was kind of a twist or an aha moment. It really wasn't for me because I kind of figured that's where we were going. But maybe that's just familiarity with the characters too. I think if you've lived with them longer, maybe like some of us have, you kind of can spot some of those turns coming, some of them. Yeah. And some things were spoiled, early on in promotional or internet rumors and stuff. That just really bugged me, though, and I saw that at like major websites, comic book websites and stuff who were being critical of the movie and talking about that scene where his memory hole technology and how it was irrelevant and why did they do it and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, did you see the end? That was the whole point of Bucky going back into cryo so they can fix his brain later when they're able to do it.
Do you think, and this is kind of off topic, but I noticed that throughout the movie, like just speckled in there were some colorful language going throughout the movie that you usually don't see in a Avengers movie. I mean, there's even a big point in the last movie that Cap said, watch your language, going through it. And I'm wondering if that's all Deadpool related, making things a little edgier.
No,
because it wasn't like, it didn't make sense where they put it in the movie. Like maybe it was shot after or something. That maybe
there was really, and it was, I thought, pretty mild curses.
Yeah.
As far as things go, and where they were placed. You know, it's not like I like it. I don't want anybody to misunderstand. I'd prefer they not do it at all. But the couple of places that it was put in, when you've got, you know, I don't know, hardened soldier types that are saying SOB and stuff like that, I can kind of be forgiving. There was one really glaring one that I really didn't like at all. And in just the time it took to utter that word, it pulled me right out of it. You know which one? Which one do you think I'm talking about?
Didn't they drop the big bomb down there?
The big bomb?
I'm trying to remember. I remember that there was one spot where it hit, and it was
no,
just
I'm talking about the particular character and stuff. And when it was Spider-Man.
Oh,
and because again, Deadpool. We talked about that whole idea that that's what he is. But to hear, and even some of the others in this movie, I was kind of forgiving of. But to hear Spider-Man utter this big swear word, it just pulled me straight out. I was like, ugh. Now, I wish they hadn't. That was a bad choice. That was a bad choice. Yeah, but no, I wish they wouldn't do it at all. It's not necessary.
It just seemed like where they were put in there was just kind of like peppered in there at the, you know, like they kind of added it.
Yeah, it's not frequent. But here's what I don't get. Since it's not necessary, and it really doesn't, I mean, does it really add anything for grown-ups?
No.
I mean, it's not, you know, there are grown-ups and adults that like, you know, vulgar, gross-out comedies or things like that that you know are targeted for a mature audience, the most immature movies targeted toward mature audiences, and you know children are not going to watch it.
The Andrew Dice Clay principle.
So when you have something like this, which you know is going to attract a family audience, it's going to have middle-aged fanboys. You're going to have grandparents taking grandkids. You're going to have little kids. You're going to, I mean, this is one of those kind of things. It appeals, or should be. Who's your target audience for this? Everybody. Everybody is your demographic. Why do it? It does nothing to enhance the experience for adults. You know, it's not humor. It's not the swears are not dependent on a joke or anything.
Right.
They're just arbitrarily written in. It could have just as easily been scratched out on the page and wouldn't have changed a thing. But yet we include it even while we know we've got little kids in there and we're doing toy tie-ins and I don't understand it. That's Hollywood. Maybe somebody else understands it better than I do, and why they do that, or why they. If it were somehow compelling, if it changed anything, if it were a decidedly and understandably mature or adult movie, not adult movie, but adult movie for grown-ups,
right?
Then I wouldn't even think about it. But I don't know. I don't know why do it.
Yeah.
So movie was great. It's wonderful. If you haven't seen it, go see it. If you enjoy that kind of thing. And I think, for the most part, this is one. It's probably more accessible than Batman, Superman. I think you can kind of jump in. And here's what's so awesome. What Marvel has done with their movies. They have made the movie-going audience and basically the world comic book readers without reading comic books. And what I mean by that is people who have never really been interested in, or maybe only had a passing interest in these guys running around in their leotards or whatever, are now involved in continuity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've got them hooked on these stories that they're all calling back to earlier moments, and they're all interconnected. And imagine, and crossing over, imagine instead of movies, these are all comic runs. You see what I'm saying? And it's the very same interconnective tissue. It's the same logic in the design, how you issue series and cross them over and connect them. And
you know what I was really impressed with was that they didn't get into the, like every time we see a new character pop up, they want to go into the backstory of that character.
Yes.
There was no backstory on Spider-Man.
Yes.
Everybody knows.
No origin story.
He was bit by a spider. And I did like that they had the mechanical web thrower, too. It didn't come out of his hand like some of the...
Yeah.
And then Ant-Man was the same way. They just, this is Ant-Man. Not... this is...
Well, now the difference between him and Black Panther is he'd already had his movie. We've already seen him. Mm-hmm. But no, I'm glad. I was so glad they didn't do that.
Right.
They didn't feel any need to do that at all. I think the only thing maybe with Black Panther is we got a couple of minutes, or not even a couple of minutes, just a few seconds of exposition.
Right.
This is the mantle that's carried into the warrior and my father.
And warrior to warrior. And
boom, we're on.
Me, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Go with it.
Thanks. Got it. Awesome. And I tell you, got me excited about Black Panther.
Yeah, they didn't have to show him as a kid growing up and wearing the mask and all.
In little Wakanda and getting past the necklace or the amulet. And no, we didn't need it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They have done these so well that we're already there.
Right.
We're there. We're going with you. We've got the continuity from all the others. So anyway, it's great. Loved it.
Go see it.
Yep. And super excited about Infinity War, which now we got to be like another year and a half, 2 years. I don't know. 2 years. Seems like a long time. I guess it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah, and then you got all kinds of stuff coming in between.
It just stinks when you watch them. Now and I got to wait forever for the next one. But, we'll get our beaks wet a little more between here and there with what else is left for us this year? Suicide Squad, Doctor
Strange.
I think there's another one.
Something. Oh, the X-Men movie.
Wonder Woman's not this year. That's next year.
They pushed it back too, I think.
Maybe 2 years. Yeah. I don't know. So we left let me work back. Before we went to the movie theater, we went out to eat and had a big nice dinner, the Japanese hibachi, which we love, where the guy makes the onion volcano.
Oh, yeah, my favorite.
He flips shrimp pieces at you to try to catch in your mouth. We love that whole experience. Well, Nathan has had this thing ever since he's been little. He has a very, very sensitive gag reflex. If he gets anything hung in his throat, even just a little phlegm or something, he's very prone to choke and vomit and all this kind of stuff. Well, he had gotten up a couple of times, I guess, to go to the bathroom. At one point he comes, and this was toward the end of our meal, he comes walking back over the table, and I see him. This is going to get a little gross, hopefully. We'll gross him by out too much. Some people get sick if you talk about getting nauseous. Some people will feel nauseous, which he wasn't really nauseous, but he comes back over to where we're sitting around. You know how the little table is around the grill.
Yeah.
And I look over and he's got his hand up to his mouth and there's spit and saliva hanging out of his mouth and all this. And I was like, go. You have kids, and I'm sure they probably do the way.
Oh yeah,
like when you can tell they're getting ready and they cannot move.
Right, they're stuck.
What is it about getting ready to throw up?
Get to the bathroom now.
It locks your legs up.
Let's find the most expensive thing in Dad's house and let's just throw up on it.
So he took off and he went running to the left where he'd already been a couple of times, presumably, I thought, to the bathroom. So he comes back in. I'm like, are you okay? Oh, yeah, I got choked up. It seems weird, but for this kid, it's nothing new. I've probably wasted, I don't know how much money buying him dinners that he's thrown up.
Yeah. He didn't hit the lobster tank, did he?
No, there was no lobster tank. Although Gretchen's got a better story about him they went to a steakhouse one night, and I'll let her tell that one sometime maybe. So I got up. Meal's over. We're paying the check. I got up to go wash my hands and finish up in the bathroom before we leave. And I got up and I was like, where's the bathroom? And though they pointed the other direction. Back to the right.
Yeah.
So I got up and I was okay. Walked down, found the little bathroom down the little hallway, washed my hands, got cleaned up, ready to go to movie. And come back outside and I'm like, where did you go? Because the bathroom's that way. You kept running to the left, and he kind of gave me some non-committal kind of evasive verbal response, we call it. Walk outside. This kid had walked outside, vomited on the sidewalk in front of the door. In front of the door. At the front door of the restaurant.
That makes you want to go eat, doesn't it? He probably just ruined their whole night's business.
And in this little strip that it's in, there's businesses up on the other side that aren't even open. There's no traffic going around. I mean, he could have walked 10, 15 feet. Just a few more paces.
At least in the parking lot, so you don't have to.
Yeah. Well, it was like on the curb, but right there at the front door. So it was bad enough that it's there. Now I'm picturing in my mind that when he was actually doing it.
Yeah.
Can you see? Because this place is new.
Uh-huh.
It's in Paris. It's a new restaurant, and it's Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And I'm putting together in my mind this scene in which let's go try that new place. Yeah. And somebody's driving by, and there's a kid standing outside the front door vomiting.
She's like running out in a hurry and then just threw up all over the sidewalk. And then
maybe we should go to Tom's or something.
McDonald's sounds good today.
So they probably lost some business right there.
Yeah, Nate the business killer.
Yeah, some not quite holding up a sandwich board outside, but I'm like, why could you not? The bathroom was just the other way. Mm-hmm. Which he had been to. He told me because he had gone to the left and doubled back to the bathroom. Why didn't you go 10 feet? Well, I made it to the whatever, to the curb.
Yeah.
That makes it all better. So it wasn't like exactly in front of the door. It wasn't like it was in danger of coming inside. Yeah, threw up right there in front of the front door.
Sweet.
So that was Mother's Day, and I guess he felt better after that. He wasn't really sick or anything. He gets gagging like that, and it's awful once you see it coming because oh yeah, here we go.
We've all been there.
Yeah, I need Gretchen. Remind me next time we're together, we get her to tell you the one about him throwing up on her at Logan's or wherever it was.
We took the girls to Memphis one time, and I think we took Amy's mom's car to Memphis, and Madeline got sick in the car, and instead of throwing up out the window, she threw up on Sophie next to her.
So you have chain reaction.
Yeah, now we have to clean up 2 kids instead of just one. Oh, it's horrible. We're stuck in Memphis.
Was it Stand By Me? What was the movie where they had the pie contest and everybody kept...
Oh, yeah, Stand By Me. Yeah.
And that looked like the Stand By Me pie contest.
Yeah, the kid ate castor oil or something. And
Yeah. He intentionally did it.
Yeah, and then had eggs or something,
to start the whole chain reaction. All right, well, that's enough vomiting for today.
Yes.
So that was Sunday, Mother's Day, which was otherwise a great day. Great meal, great time with family, surprise visit from Mom and Grandma. Great movie. Well, Monday was my return to the dentist. So this this was to go back for my root canal.
Root canal therapy.
Yeah, so we show up there. My appointment's at 1:00. Mm-hmm. When you don't want to show up for your appointment late, really on time is late, because from our last conversation how easy you can get behind. Mm-hmm. So we pull up like 1:15. They're closed. Sign on the door. It's right to lunch. Be back at 1:00. I'm like, my appointment's at 1:00. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So we hang out a few more minutes. They come open up the office, come in, and there's nobody there. They've just opened the doors. Mm-hmm. Come back from lunch.
Yeah.
Sat down another half hour.
You didn't go right in?
No.
Oh, I figured since there's nobody there, you just right back in.
Wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe the dentist was late getting back from lunch. I didn't, I don't know when he actually made it back in the building. He might have
put in 18 instead of 9 the other day.
Yeah. He only played 9 holes.
Yeah.
So walk in, and first thing I hear, playing on our Magic Dentist radio station, Ozzy Osbourne.
Sweet.
I don't know it. It was a newer one.
I'm Coming Home.
It wasn't that one. I know that one. I would know that one.
Ozzy's in trouble here lately.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a minute.
Oh.
So yeah, I heard Ozzy Osbourne. Oh man, I tried to make notes in my head of what I was hearing. He was followed by some kind of country song.
Yeah, of course.
It was one of those newer ones, one of those newer overproduced.
Yeah.
Sounding with like
pop country
guy, the generic guy with the baritone. Mm-hmm. I don't know who it was. Yeah. I don't know. I couldn't tell you who it was. And then most of the rest of the time I was there, it seems like the playlist got locked into gospel music because that's all I heard though.
They were saying you're a preacher. They're like, oh man, he's a preacher. Change the station.
No. And I tell you why, because when he was working on my mouth and doing my root canal or something, and I was grunting about that needle, and I don't know how he got off talking about it. He was talking about how difficult it is sometimes, and this to get in there and do this. And he was like, I was the only one that could figure out what was wrong with my mother. She went to 3 or 4 doctors or dentists, and they couldn't do nothing for her. And now he's in my mouth doing this. I just thought of this because you mentioned that. Let's clean it up because the preacher's here, and and he's like, so I was the only one that was able to, I don't normally like to work on my family, but, I was the only one that could figure out what was wrong with my mother, and I went in there and fixed it. My mother came up and said, he pulled out the biggest GD needle. I'm like, really? Okay.
Yeah. How about that?
We're that comfortable with each other now that
we're friends now.
And he's doing this, and since you mentioned it, he's doing this. He's telling me this in the middle of singing along to the gospel music that's playing, and also sticking me with needles and stuff. So, root canal wasn't bad. Everything went like it was supposed to, other than it took longer. Mm-hmm. It went on for a long time, and I was injected with enough local anesthetic, or what am I trying to say? What is it?
Novocaine, or
it would be like lidocaine. Well, for this one, probably Novocaine. Yeah. When you get injected, the lidocaine can go on the outside. I think I'm talking out of school.
Yeah.
Toward the end, I started to feel a little bit. And he got down in there nice and deep, and I kind of, but we were able to finish it when it was wearing off. Mm-hmm. But we finished up, and so the pain factor wasn't bad, although it's just, I don't know how to describe it. It's just intense. Mm-hmm. It's really intense because you can still feel the sensation.
Right, you feel the pulling and
of
pressure.
The instruments way up in places where they're not supposed to be, in those tiny recesses. And, I talked last time about how I wish he would kind of tell me what's going on, so I'd not only did I didn't get that, but I did get a little commentary along the way, because he'd be like, oh, yeah, it's curving. There's a curve right there. I know how that goes. I'm not going to go around that curve. And what's he said? There's always one canal that wants to be a problem. And I'm like, you're not instilling confidence in
Was
me.
He playing video games or something like
that? Yeah. Singing his gospel songs and teaching me some new swear words. And,
well, I had an interesting dental experience the other day, too.
Did you go recently?
Well, I took Sophie to the dentist. And it's, I never realized it because I've been with them before, to the dentist, and it's not a big deal. But after we talked the other day, I really paid attention to what they were doing and stuff, And it's like totally different being on the other side of that and seeing them like take the needle out and put it in. And it's like, just crazy looking.
Yeah, because I had taken Nathan for a root canal. It's been a few years ago, maybe even a couple of years ago. And his wasn't bad at all. It didn't take long. I mean, they punch with the little things, were in and out. Mm-hmm. Gave him some pain medicine, which he never took. And everybody was good. So that's kind of what I was expecting. Of course, my teeth are much older and much more serious condition than he was. Now, he did try to pick on me. I don't remember how it was. He was trying to make as if he was better than his were better than mine, or because I was in bad shape because my teeth were so bad. And I said, look, I made it to 42 years old without ever having a root canal. You had one at 10 or 9 or whatever. So back off, buddy. Yeah, and I still got to go back for more. But this is the worst of it.
Yeah,
it's the worst.
Let's do the worst thing first. And then...
Well, the explanation on that, I thought everybody was following that root canal therapy conversation, but I figured out talking to Gretchen later, she didn't quite get it. Mm-hmm. Root canal, even though we say it as if it's a procedure or an action, root canal is not really an action. It's a thing.
Oh.
It's the canals that your roots run through in your teeth.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the actual procedure wherein which we put the little barbs in and pull out the pulp and the root stuff, that's the root canal therapy.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
She didn't get that because, we were just cutting up about it in here. And then after we finished the show, she was like, we were watching TV that night, and she's like, I wouldn't pay for that. I wouldn't pay for that therapy. They're trying. She
massage your gums.
She thought they were trying to upsell me.
Put the little rocks, the hot rocks on your gums to make them.
Mm-hmm. She thought they were trying to upsell me on some kind of legitimate therapy.
Smell the lavender.
And I was like, no, that's what the actual procedure is. Oh yeah, so Ozzy, man, what happened with him? It got weird over the weekend.
Yeah.
This is the way I understand it. Maybe you can explain or tell me what you've heard. I guess it's all rumors, not like we know these people.
Yeah.
He goes missing over the weekend because Sharon kicked him out of the house, and because he had an affair with a hairdresser.
How? Yeah, as far as Ozzy goes, I just can't imagine like all the stuff that him and Sharon have been through. That like that's the thing that finally broke the camel's back. You know.
Well, but it's really not. Well, we don't know that it is yet.
Yeah,
because this has happened before. Mm-hmm. Actually, just as recently as 2013, she put him out again then, or kicked him to the curb because he had relapsed and was drinking or doing dope again or something like that.
Ozzy does drugs. I can't imagine.
Yeah. Well, it depends on which day it is. You know, he's one of those that goes through bouts of sobriety and bouts of relapse. It just seems it's been rotating his entire life. But this is the first I would ever think I'd recall hearing where it involved a woman.
Yeah.
Which is really... You know, I don't want to be too insulting to the guy. I mean, Anthony Quinn was fathering kids into his 70s, well into his 70s. But, you know, of course, you can look at Anthony Quinn and Ozzy, and Ozzy's not the same specimen Anthony Quinn.
Do you remember?
He's 70 years old.
Do you remember when they first came out with that show, and you're like, oh my, that's Ozzy Osbourne in real life?
Yeah.
Because he was like,
I don't know how he'd be able to care for himself.
Yeah.
At all, especially considering he also has a weakness for drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, but from what I was understanding about this hairdresser, and again, this is just all the rumor you hear on the entertainment news and stuff like that. And I know these people, but supposedly she's some kind of rocker metal chick that she's really into the rock metal culture. So, you know, it wasn't like, you know, oh, I'm in love with this man and I want him to leave his wife and run away with me.
Right.
It's basically glorified groupie, only closer to home and not on the road.
Right.
She just wanted to make Ozzy a conquest, I guess, or something, just to say she did. And that's kind of why I go back again, not to insult the guy, but I mean, we've all seen him, and he's 70 years old, and you know, I mean, he just doesn't. This is not. It's not Sean Connery.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, what's the
Ozzy?
What are you looking for here, honey? You know, Brad and Angelina cheating on Jennifer Aniston. You know, I can do the math on that.
Yeah,
I can't do the math on Ozzy.
Yeah, poor feller.
And it stinks because you could tell the way the media was trying to do it. They wanted to turn it into one of these Ozzy, you know, is missing.
Yeah.
And he really wasn't missing. I mean, so to speak, not like a missing person.
Yeah, he knew where he was.
Maybe. Yeah. It wasn't like we had to put out, you know, go hang posters.
Right. Have you seen this man
around town or anything? But I felt like they were kind of trying to spin it that way, you know, and that kind of smelled bad a little bit. But apparently he did resurface. He went back home and Sharon moved out, was the last thing I read or heard. He came back home and she left. So more news as it develops, I guess. It's interesting. I would have thought back when I was a kid and I really got into Ozzy Osbourne, I would not have imagined that, you know, 30 years later, I'd be sitting here talking about him and his wife.
Yeah. Who would have thought he'd outlasted like Prince? And you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of those guys. You know, Lemmy made it to 70.
Yeah.
And really, it was just some cancer that popped up at the end that took him. I mean, had that not happened, he probably could have gone on for God knows how long. Keith Richards, you got those. There's just some that just seem to defy
like do genetic testing on them. So they got to be made of something crazy.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Ozzy, though, as you've kind of pointed out, we all recognize, at least in appearance, seems pretty frail.
Yeah.
And he has for a long time. And what worries me is, you know, with his penchant for the booze and drugs and stuff, that, you know, something like this, you know, it wouldn't take him long to do himself in.
And if you were
he's left alone.
If you were in that lifestyle too, who wouldn't want to do drugs with Ozzy Osbourne? You know, if you were out and about and you see Ozzy on the street, you know.
That's the other part of it too. It's always available. People give it to you all the time.
Yeah.
People give it to you. Yeah. Come smoke a joint with me. Yeah. Do a line with me.
And then for 20 years I can say I did drugs with Ozzy Osbourne. You know?
Yeah, exactly. It's an extension of the hairdresser chick. So I don't know, man. He worries me worries me for him. I don't know. They don't need to keep the home together for the kids at this point or anything. I mean, these are some pretty advanced aged folks, but still just for his own health and well-being. And
you think at 70 you just be like, whatever, just
he's just never seemed to be able. He's just one of those people, and I get it. I kind of used to be one of those people.
Yeah,
he's just not able to pull it all together. You know, he can have a good year, followed by a couple of bad years.
And he celebrates.
It's this constant life struggle. This constant life struggle of trying to maintain.
You know, I wonder too, if he hadn't have been famous, if he hadn't made it, you know, like if he would just be a regular person now, if he would have just gone to his 9-to-5 job and gone home to his family, and everything would be cool now. He'd be in good health. You know?
Hard to imagine the working class schmo John Osborne,
right,
instead of Ozzy the personality,
right.
I don't know.
Biting the heads off bats.
Yeah. So you mentioned Prince in there. We didn't talk about him last time we were here. You have any thoughts on that? Where are you with Prince? I was thinking about this the other day, and thinking about coming in here and talking about it, and because I kind of know. I know you enjoy music, and I kind of have an idea of things you like musically. But it was weird. Prince was kind of one of those things, like, I don't know. I could kind of see you going either way. Like, I don't really care for it, or, he's a genius, you know.
You know, I don't really listen to Prince on a regular basis, but I grew up around that time when Prince was really big. And I remember, you know, you can't be born in the 80s and have a soundtrack going with your life and not have Prince playing in it. You know? So I think he was a musical genius and played so many instruments and was pitch perfect when he sang, you know.
Proficient.
Yeah.
Very proficient, very eclectic, very prolific, all those words that you could use. Yeah. Natural in that, you know, he's a guy. Some people just, like some people can have a gift, can look under the hood of a car and it makes sense to them. Some people are like that with, you know, arts and sciences, and, you know, with music. You know, their brains just work that way, and they get it. They understand. I don't know. I don't say you have to be taught. You know, there is a level of teaching, I guess, but you understand the relationships between things. And once you have that, as we saw with him, it's easy to then command or play lots of different instruments, because you're seeing everything much more clearly and much more, in a much more linear fashion than the rest of us do.
Right.
People are just able to look at it and it makes sense to them.
Never really big into drugs, really was...
Well, street drugs.
Yeah.
I've seen some rumors recently where people were saying that maybe he was, in addition to some other things we'll talk about, but maybe he was taking some cocaine. I'm skeptical about that.
Well, he always seemed like he was really out against drugs.
Well, he was very big Jehovah's Witness. And if you add, Kevin Smith is a perfect example of telling a story. A lot of people will tell stories about talking to him. Kevin Smith has a great one where he's like, you know, you get to meet Prince and talk to him, and all he wanted to talk about Jesus. He's like, I'm 30 minutes in, and this guy's preaching. You know, and also, you know, had that in common, I guess, with the Jacksons, with Michael Jackson. That's right. They were Jehovah's Witness too, right? And they're, when it comes to what they take in terms of diet and drugs and things like that, very strict, you know. I remember when it was a big stink that Michael Jackson was doing a soda commercial because he's not supposed to drink soda or caffeine or whatever. So, no, Prince and Michael Jackson alike, you know, these are not guys, and I understand what you're saying. You know, these are not guys, these are not your Ozzies and your Keith Richards and your Lemmys. They're not using street drugs. You know, they're not. That's why I said the cocaine thing would surprise me a little, But here's what it all comes back to, and here's what really concerns me, and I hope everyone that hadn't picked up on this will yet, or doesn't understand this yet, will really lean in and appreciate how serious this is. One thing that you see in common, and we almost have blinders to it. The average public, the mass public, seems to have blinders to it. Oh, how tragic. You know, he was just 57. He was just 48. He was just 61. It was just 27.
Yeah.
The one thing that you see over and over and over and over in all of these cases, what's beside the bed? Doctor pills.
Oh, yeah.
Doctor pills beside the bed. Over and over and over again.
I think our state is still number one in the nation for prescription drug
abuse. Did we make
abuse.
it to number one? When I used to talk defensive driving, I used to say when I started with defensive driving several years ago, teaching it, we were number 3. Then we moved to number 2. So we may be number 1 now.
I think we're one.
But run the list, man. Heath Ledger, Brittany Murphy, Elvis,
Marilyn Monroe,
Whitney Houston,
her daughter.
Yeah.
Bobby Christina.
And you go, well, there's all these other circumstances. Yes, there are other things going on. Those were individuals who did have different individual problems. What I'm stressing though is, what is the common denominator?
Yeah.
What is the common factor over and over and over and over again? And we're seeing it's accidental overdoses, it's addiction, it's combined with alcohol, combined with other drugs, and it's awful. And the prescription drug problem is just, and it's weird because, like, if it were like autopsy results come back, Prince died from a cocaine overdose, we would all get that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have any cognitive dissonance over that, other than surprise. Like, I wouldn't think he would take coke, but I get it.
He's in that lifestyle,
But when people die and they find all these doctor pills around the bed, and was just treated a couple of days ago for
the flu or something?
it was an accidental opiate overdose from what I heard. They gave him a Narcan shot, and still people, but how unusual and how tragic at 50. And I'm like, it's not really unusual if that's we just don't see it the same way.
Right.
And all these people drop dead, and we go, well, just how strange, how unusual. And it's like, not really.
I'm sure you see it a lot more than I would. But I can, because I come from a family history where addiction runs through the family. And, so I'm really careful when I go to the doctor about stuff that they let me take. And I've even turned them down when they've offered me pain pills and stuff before. I've said, no, I don't need those, or no, I don't need those right now. I'll call back later if it gets too bad or whatever.
Well, we're just talking about celebrity examples. I mean, the same rules hold true in the middle class, average world too. I mean, we're seeing, we're talking about these guys, these Jehovah's Witness entertainers, big on Jesus, who won't even drink a cup of coffee, but yet have become victims of clinical drugs. And we see it out in our own community. And again, as Randall's already pointed out, it's bad where we are in Tennessee. It was bad everywhere, but really bad. We have a real problem with it. We've got, housewives and blue collar workers and got people that would have never even thought of going around the corner to score some cocaine or even smoke marijuana.
The thing that bugs me is you got people that would never in their life think about drinking and driving, but they can take 4 Ambiens, and go out on the road and not even think anything of it,
And that's a DUI too, driving under the influence. Now, depending on what state you're in, they may call it something different. But I always stressed in defensive driving class, there is no drunk driving law. It's the driving under the influence
of anything,
of an intoxicant, which can be alcohol, can be prescription meds. But you've got these people that, are not quote unquote drug addicts or drug seekers or drug users.
Right.
And the doctor gives them these little pills. Of course, the doctor gives them to them, and they're way overprescribed, too easy to get. And you take a couple. People like the way they make them feel. And a couple more and a couple more and a couple more, and pretty soon you've turned a normal, average housewife, blue-collar laborer, whoever, teacher, into a criminal and drug addict and a thief and whatever else.
I've noticed, too, just in getting older, and I'm not old by any stretch, but I'm getting older, that, things hurt. Once you get a certain age, things start hurting, and it's harder to get to sleep at night sometimes, and I think that's just part of life. But if somebody's going to give you a drug that takes care of it, is that really the way to go? Should we deal with it,
Yes.
Yeah.
one of the worst things that we do is we treat chronic pain with pain medications. Now, that seems counterintuitive to a lot of folks, but it's become too easy. And of course, doctors get money too. Everybody gets paid.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody gets paid. The more of these pills we push, and without being thorough and finding the underlying problems of the pain or trying to really manage it, we just take here's some opiates, opioids to cover it up, make your pain go away.
Unspecified lower back pain. Let's give you some drugs.
Yep, exactly. And so what happens after you stay on those for a while? Then you don't have them.
Right.
Trust me, you think your pain is worse. It maybe not necessarily your back pain or your knee pain, whatever it was that started, but you will feel worse. You'll feel like you want to die.
Or you build up a tolerance to them. You got to go up to something.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then if you don't have it, you will feel like you're going to die. And
right.
But in your mind, it becomes connected to my chronic pain condition. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So I need to keep being fed.
Yeah, it's getting worse. It's not that my drug habit's getting worse. It's
now you're compounding it with, if you don't have it, you're compounding it with the effects of not having the drug and all the other side effects. Well, of course, we got a pill for that too.
Right. Yeah.
Or your constipation from your pills. Well, we got a pill for that too.
Right.
Managing chronic pain with the pain pills. But you're right. We just are at a place where we won't take any discomfort at all.
Right. And it's part of life. Things are going to hurt. When you wake up in the morning at 36, things hurt. And you just got to deal with it. If you just take pills for it, then you want to walk through life like a zombie or anything.
Well, people won't, walk a little bit, stretch a little bit, get a cup of coffee, don't. It's probably representative not only what's happening in our bodies, what's happening in our minds and in our culture.
Yeah. People aren't as tough nowadays as they used to be, I don't think.
We're conditioned not to have, that we shouldn't have any discomfort at all. And it's making us soft, and it's making a lot of people drug addicts. Just plainly put.
They can't deal with just normal stuff that happens,
I tell you, another effect that we're starting to see now in Tennessee, and especially here in our community in West Tennessee, and I don't know, maybe it's going on in other parts of the country. What's happening as the opioid and prescription pill market is expanding, and the addiction problems there, it's opening up another corner of that market for heroin to come back in.
Right.
Heroin seems to go and come back and go and come back and go and come back.
It goes in style. It goes in style and out of style. I remember that when we lived in Florida, that heroin was out of style for a little while, and then it came back into style.
Well, and you're right. You're absolutely right. This is the first time, or the one example, though, where I could say this return is completely functional. It's a response to what's going on, what people are taking. Because, again, these are people who are not drug addicts, right? And if you've got the housewife who's got hooked on Vicodin or OxyContin or whatever, and folks, here's the thing: maybe the doctors aren't explaining this. That stuff and the heroin, it's the same thing,
same base.
It's coming from the same place.
If you look at the chemical formula, it's pretty much the same for both of them, and it does the same thing to your body.
If you don't have a poppy plant, you don't get any of that. It all comes from that same. So, if you've developed over the course of a year, an addiction to hydros or OxyContin or whatever, and all of a sudden it's harder to get or expensive, the pills, man, you wouldn't believe
once the insurance stops paying for them, then woo.
You wouldn't believe what a single pill would go for. Well, all it takes is that guy to come in and go, well, you should try a little bit of this. It's the same thing. See, and so there's a place in that market for heroin to fill in. And what we're seeing too is elderly people who've never been cross with the law their entire lives, who are living on fixed incomes and barely getting by, are figuring out they can pick up a little extra scratch selling their pills. Yeah. And you're making drug addicts out of soccer moms and housewives, and drug traffickers
fugitives
out of folks at the
people.
Nursing home. Yeah. Right. It's crazy, man. Oh, so crazy. Oh, just be careful.
Yeah, I was in line at the pharmacy the other day. I take a few medicines for my diabetes, and I try to monitor everything else with vitamins or supplements, which I never really believed in until I started taking them. And, you can do a lot with vitamins and supplements to take care of your body.
Yeah.
But I was behind a lady at the pharmacy the other day, and she was looking for her OxyContin. And she was out, her prescription was out. She had like 3 weeks left before she got it refilled. And she was irate. I mean, seriously upset that she wasn't going to get her medicine. And, man, I just can't imagine feeling that way. And, you know, if it was 3 weeks left and she took a whole month's supply in a week,
yep.
You know, so,
and you're standing right there and you're doing the math right there. You're going, this is a drug addict.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
She doesn't think it, and maybe nobody else sees it, but that's exactly what you have on your hands. Okay. Well, let's bring this thing home. I was talking about, I had an idea, that you seem to like about maybe doing a movie commentary. Was looking the other day because I didn't know, how do we choose? How do we select? And I thought, wait a minute. A lot of people, if not everybody, and most people, that the handful that are probably even listening to what we do, Netflix. Everybody got Netflix. Not everybody, but everybody got Netflix. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Everybody has access to Netflix.
Well, not everybody has the DVDs that I have in my DVD rack or yours. Not everybody has the same. So I thought, well, that's like a common place if we use stuff off of a common area, staging area. So anyway, take a look, see what's on Netflix. Of course, we'll do it. I don't remember if you have it or not, but I have it. We'll do it here at the house. So if you see what's in the Netflix library or catalog, I thought maybe just kicking around some ideas. Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan.
Oh yeah,
that one came to me. Now I don't even remember. I pulled up a couple others that looked like they could be good maybes, but that was the first one that attracted my attention.
What about the first Star Wars prequel? It seemed like when I watched it when it first came out, I was like, "Oh, this is great." Now look at it, like, "Oh, this is hilarious."
I don't really know that I want to watch it again. You know what I mean? I have it.
Yeah.
I just do I really want to sit through it? Do people really want to sit through it? I don't know. Oh, the Batman '89.
Oh, I love that one.
That's on Netflix.
Yeah.
Some kind of some fun stuff like that. So.
You know, my grandpa, and I talk about him a lot, but my mom's stepdad used to take me to all the Batman movies when they come out.
Yeah.
And he just loved that Michael Keaton Batman in that one. I mean, that was like his favorite movie. He even bought it on VHS, and he never bought like a movie.
Yeah.
And this is back in, late 80s, so you didn't really go out and buy movies. You rented them or whatever, but he bought Batman on VHS. So
that was one of the first ones that a lot of people did, that one and E.T.
Yeah.
I remember, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, we'll bring it home for today, and we'll come back very soon with another show. We got so much on our agenda we need to do. I want to play another game day, and we'll figure out if we can get this commentary thing going on. If you have an idea or something in the Netflix queue that looks good to you and you'd like to hear.
Maybe we should just randomly pick like somebody's suggestion. Like if something were suggested online.
I was concerned a little bit about content. I mean, we watch a lot of stuff, but I mean, I don't want to sit there and I'd like to make kind of a safe selection.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't want to do anything that's got too much objectionable content in it, but we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I'm open to suggestion. That's why I want you to kind of look through them there too, and maybe now you kind of see where my mind is with the suggestions that I've given you. There was another one too, and I don't remember what it is. All right, well, we'll call it a day. I'm Pastor Dave, sitting with Randall the Armor Bearer, and we are
They That Believe.
Smoking cannabis.